as part of the build-up to the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. We have a couple of races to look back at the golden era of the Spa heritage. It's the centenary year, and there's an awful lot to reflect on here this weekend. Not just, of course, GT cars, but you go back a little bit further in time, and the 24 Hours of Spa was about touring car racing, and for many, many seasons was a round of a European Touring Car Championship and different eras of touring car racing represented on the grid here as the field starts to form into place. David Anderson trackside. I'm delighted to say that with me in the booth for this 40-minute race, a legend of Belgian motor racing, still actively involved with WRT, but a winner of the 24 Hours in 1981 with the Mazda RX-7, and he's driven hundreds of other cars along the way. Welcome, Pierre Dieudonné. Pierre, welcome to a different role at Spa. You've done everything else, I think.
Thank you. Hello, David, and hello, everyone on air. Very glad to be here.
The 24 Hours we'll talk about as a race in general, but the touring car era went through lots of different types of regulation, didn't it? From Group 2 to Group 1 to Group A, lots of different cars you could drive.
Exactly, a lot of different regulation, also a lot of different homologation, because we were talking about production cars, so it was a little bit complicated, but it was tremendous racing and a lot of very interesting cars, some of them that we will watch here with great pleasure.
Now, I suspect as we look at the cars on the grid, you'll be able to say, I drove one of those, I drove one of those, I drove one of those. There are not many cars in this entry that probably you didn't ever race.
No, I raced several of them, but also a lot of them as a test, because as a motoring journalist, I did a lot of testing. So the Capri I test, but oh no, I did race also with a Capri, but that was in the Group A or Group at the time of the Martin, those years.
Ah, yeah, Group 1, I think. Yeah,
yeah, that was Group 1. That was Group 1. So I raced Capri, but I test a lot of different Capri, and probably most of the cars I have driven.
For sure. There is one of the Volvos on the grid that you raced in 1984?
1984, yeah. That was the first year with the Volvo. It was very funny the way it happened, because you know, Volvo was not at that time very much connected with motorsport, and a small group of engineers in Sweden, they realized that under the Group A regulation with a turbo, they could play a role, and they developed that car a little bit secretly. And I tested in Zolder end of '83, and you know, it was like a taxi, because it's a brake car, nothing like. At that time, I was with Tom Walkinshaw, TWR Racing, so in the Jaguar XJS, and that car was, you know, I say, oh, what can that car hope? And then I tested in Zolder. Immediately, I realized the potential, and then Volvo asked me to drive the car with. I mean, it was the Belgian dealers with my friend Michel Delcourt.
Ah,
that was the first year. And then Michel Delcourt went to win the Wellington race in New Zealand at the end of the year, and the year after, that was the second year and third year when Volvo was really into it with the Swedish team. That was Ulf Granberg car, I would think, and then of course they made a deal with Eggenberger to run the cars in the European Touring Car Championship, and that's what I did in '85 and 85.
Your journalistic role to be able to test drive lots of different cars must have been useful for Tom Walkinshaw. You could go back and say, okay, I've driven this and it's good here and bad there.
He didn't need that. He was so clever by himself that he didn't need that. And also, okay, when I was racing, I was not so much welcome by rival teams. So it's mainly through the years that I could do that.
Now there, the Volvo. It did say Chris Esser on the graphic. It's Kurt Tim behind the wheel. Now there is a car with certainly a problem. It's, I think, a recreation of the Eggenberger Texaco Sierra that, Pierre, you had some good results with and some disappointments, like Bathurst, for example, where the Australian scrutineers didn't like that car.
Yeah, that's probably the saddest. I don't have many regrets because I was very lucky. And with my good friend Steve Soper, we won that one, Bathurst, which of course it's a jewel. And we were stripped from the victory for a very small technicality, mainly related to politics, because the Australian, we were the invaders, you know, with the World Touring Championship, so they didn't see us welcome. There were a lot of rumors that we were using funny fuel, and that, I mean, it was one thing after the other. And by the end, they just found that the wheel arches were a little bit, I mean, according to the homologation sheet. The car was all right in Europe and in the World Touring Car Championship, but in Australia it was not, so we were thrown out.
So your car was excluded, Klaus Ludwig's car with Klaus Niedwitz was excluded, and amazingly, an Australian driver won, Peter Brock. Imagine that.
The local legend.
Yes, exactly. They're another of the Sierra RS 500s. They were amazing cars. Drivers used to say, oh, that power came in really suddenly, like a switch was flicked.
Yes, and you know, these cars had very narrow tires, and that was one of the problems with the turbo. You had massive torque coming on, and so they were quite difficult. Not difficult, but you had to be very, very gentle with the throttle, and but they were immensely powerful. We reached up to 500 horsepower, and we had to detune the engine because the block was not holding the power.
Gosh.
So we end up at about 450 or 460 horsepower in the race, but with more torque, and that was much more useful than just crude power.
I was going to ask what you might call the golden age of touring cars, because we have so many eras represented, but the early 1970s, BMW, CSLs, Ford Cologne Capris, that was a special time.
Yes, very special, and also for me, because that's when I started watching racing, so I saw the great Hans-Joachim Stuck doing his first race or appearing on the scene, but at that time I was not racing myself. And then a few years after, when I was racing, I drove well, as you know, the CSL a lot of time, and we won the European Touring Car Championship in '76 with Luigi Carr and Jean Seval, who is here among all the legends that are here in the paddock.
Wow. And another of those CSLs, they had a different configuration of the rear wing for whether it was Group 2 or the even more outlandish Group 5.
Yes, through the year it was a little bit complicated, because you remember, I think it was end of '72, Jochen Nepasch was coming from Ford, was pinched by BMW, and he set up BMW Motorsport, and he brought that kind of competition to another level, because he convinced BMW to create a separate company, BMW Motorsport GmbH, and the year after, with the BMW, he beat the Ford, which were then led by Mike Cranafus.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It's a really mixed grid, and it shows how the Spa 24 Hours, how touring car racing evolved, because, of course, by the 1990s, touring car racing was super touring regulations in most countries, but there wasn't an endurance championship. So for a 24-hour race, the regulations, the format was opened up to a rather more basic touring car, and that's how you end up with things like the diesel Volkswagen Golf that's just hidden under the CrowdStrike gantry there. There are some wonderful cars on this grid, not only in terms of the look, but the sound as well. Things like the BMW 635 or the Alfa Romeo GT V6 just make a wonderful noise.
Yes, that era of Group 4, so during the 80s was for me a golden age. The 70s were a golden age with the BMW, the Capri and all that. But also the 80s with Group A, you have also the Rover, Vitesse, were developed by Tom Walkinshaw Racing as well. You have a variety of car, fast car, and intense competition. And all that was killed by an FIA decision in 1988, when they all of a sudden decide that touring car racing should be limited to 2-liter and oriented towards national categories, and that killed international touring car. And that's when, at that time, that the 24 Hours of Spa started to have a problem, because it was difficult to make an interesting grid.
Exactly.
And so a few years after, GT came and started a new, even more fantastic era up to today, thanks to the visionary thanks to Stefan Rattel, who invented or had the idea of GT3, and well, the success is here.
For sure. Let me just quickly look at the grid then as the cars make their way through on this formation lap. It is on pole position number 74 BMW, which is Sebastian Glazer starting, and Wim Kyle is alongside. Then you've got Paddy Chauvelin in the BMW M3 with Eric Vick for company. Then Philippe Scamama and the Porsche in the hands to go first of Jean-André Collard. Next it is Christophe Van Riet. Matt Holmes' BMW is ahead in turn of 181, that being the Olivier Meuren's Volkswagen Golf. Fourth that car finished 1 year. Next up, Sam Adrians on his own, ahead of Simon Graves, Jean-Louis Rion, and in 178, Mark Verhagen, another solo driver. Then hopefully Jan van Elderen's Eggenberger Texaco Recreation Sierra can get onto the grid. 75, Eric Mestag's 3-litre CSL BMW is there. You've also got, after him, number 430, that is Philippe Truffier's E30 BMW M3. Christian Traber and Pantelis Christoforou. Kerry Michael comes next ahead of Simon Alexander and then Christoph Schwarz with the very distinctive Dodge Charger. 56 on the grid next, Dominic Holvert's early 70s Toyota Celica ahead of Guy Falve's beautiful Alfa Romeo. Kurt Tim in the Volvo, Alain Jadot's BMW. Then number 15, which is Gerard Lachaud. And that's the reason that we are going to have a delayed start, because 15 has got a problem. Look, the BMW of Gerard Lachaud and Benjamin Munch. And that is being taken off the grid. That ain't going to start. Let's just quickly finish off the grid. You've got Christian Bocker's Fred Bouvier Spa 24 winner, and then also Eric Secho. Let's just go down to the grid quickly. Christina Beckers with Antonia Rankin.
Petra, could you tell us a little bit about the very special car that you're driving today?
Yes, of course. I'm driving with the famous Christine Beckers. She's 80 now. We're driving with the Alpha 2000 GTV, which won the class by her brother, Lucien Beckers, 50 years ago, in 1974. So we are driving today. She asked me to help her, and so it's Christine Beckers and my name, Petra Carlier. We are driving today with the oldest car, the Alpha from 71, and I'm also built in 71, so I'm 53 now, and normally I drive with BMW, but I'm helping Christine to do her triptych. 2 weeks ago, she drove at Le Mans, 24 hours Le Mans, with her Chevron. And now, today in Spa with the Alpha, and 21st of July in Zolder, in Belgium, with the Formula 1 from Thierry Boutsen. So then she will achieve her triptych, and then she will be normally in the book of records.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Best of luck this weekend.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Some great stories that came out in historic racing. How about that? One of the oldest cars, and the drivers then roughly the same age as the car itself. Right, it's a safety car start. The clock has started because of that BMW being stranded. So the race effectively is on, but we are behind the safety car, really just to make sure that the track is clear. And the field now coming down towards La Source. That 2-litre GTV Alfa Romeo we just looked at, Pierre, touring cars were a lot more standard in those early 1970s.
Yes, they were. And what is interesting about Christine Beckers, you know, and it's nice to see her here. Her fiancé, just talking about those dreadful accidents that we had during the Spa 24 hours, her fiancé at the time, Roger Dubosc, is one of the drivers who got killed here in the accident with Hans-Peter Guyson. And his brother Lucien was in that race as well, and with Alfa Romeo.
Right.
Also missing on the grid, that would have been very interesting. Maxime Martin, who is running with us and on the number 46 car with Valentino Rossi. He was due to race with his father, 4-time winner of the Spa 24 Hours in a DTM BMW M3, but unfortunately the car either had a problem or was not ready. So and the same, Eric Van der Poel also was due to do this race, and with a broken heart, also the car was not available. So we are missing two very prominent competitors who could have been here.
Yeah, and heroes of the Spa 24-hour, Belgian heroes of the 24 hours. There's a sort of Van der Poel liveried M3 going through shot there.
Yep.
As you see the cars coming towards us. The Porsche, because for a time, to try and boost the grid, the 24 hours became a mix of saloon cars and relatively low modified GT cars. The BMW 635 CSI on the inside, one of the many on the grid, wonderful shape. And there you can see the white with the striping across it, Eggenberger car that takes you to 1983, 1984, when Helmut Kellerners and Umberto Grano drove those against the Tom Walkinshaw Jaguar XJSs. Some great fights between BMW and Jaguar, and the Rover Vitesse that was coming on strong at the time as well.
Exactly. But these were the early days with the Jaguar. It was not easy for Tom to set up that challenge, but then later he won big race here with
Hans Heyer.
Hans Heyer, yeah. They won.
Yeah, Tom, I think when the Jaguar XJS program came along, it was partly funded by Chuck Nicholson. So Chuck Nicholson drove with him, and then eventually Hans Heyer took the lead car.
Exactly, yeah. And that time we raced together with Chuck. Also, he was a very nice character, wonderful chap, and I think still a keen enthusiast about motorsport.
For sure, absolutely. Another of those fantastic looking, sounding BMW CSLs, Philips Gamama's 1975 CSL. If you spot number 1, which is a little bit further back in the queue, it's Matt Holmes' Spa 24 winning BMW. The M3 there in the white and green livery, Paddy Shavlin starts. He's joined by Andrew Jordan, who is the 2013 British Touring Car champion. And he replaces Michael Cullen, who regularly shares with Paddy Shavlin, but Michael Cullen put his hot pants on recently to go to a Taylor Swift concert, and that's kept him away from Spa. So shows the lure of Taylor Swift, clearly, if you'd rather do that than go to Spa. The pace car peels in then, and the cars are now released, so the remainder of 40 minutes is underway. Cars accelerate their way up towards La Source, and it's going to be interesting to see how hard different drivers are prepared to push and where indeed the strength of some of these cars are. But up front then, from pole position, it is going to be Sebastian Glaser in the lead in the white BMW CSL, and there Paddy Shavlin charging down the hill in the green and white BMW. But already, Pierre, those two early 1970s Group 2 style touring cars being able to pull a big gap.
Yes, because they were powerful. I don't. What are the lap times? What are they doing?
We'll see a proper flying lap at the end of this.
Okay, but in qualifying, well, we'll see. We'll see later what the pace is. But of course, the track has changed a little bit. Well, certainly the new track from the 80s up to now. Also, they put new asphalt very recently, and it's a lot more grippy. It was a shock for all the GT3 competitors to find that all of a sudden with a lot more grip than when we came here for testing about a month ago.
Good little battle here between the Sierra and then the Bugatti-built BMW. That's Eric Kvick at the wheel of the Bastos Fina oil liveried car. One of two of those in that colour scheme, the other one being Matt Holmes that you'll see elsewhere on the grid. That car, an Ivan Muller, Ingo Hoffmann, Alexander Bergstaller Spa 24-hour entry. It was up behind Christoph Van Riet's Sierra, but then the power of the Turbo Sierra just pulls it away a little bit. Christoph Van Riet with the ex-Thierry Tassin Sierra. Thierry very much a part of WRT these days.
Yes, and who is here, and he will go around a little bit later on track with the Heritage cars. So he will drive one of his 635.
Fantastic,
beautiful, one of the car he won with.
So there, Christoph Van Riet in the Sierra coming up towards us. Romain Feitler, Jean-Claude Androuet with the other drivers with Thierry of that car. The Porsche looking a little bit incongruous against the touring cars. And is there a wisp of smoke out of the back of Christoph Van Riet Sierra, I wonder, as they head through Blanchimont? There is, of course, a mandatory pit stop in this race to enable driver changes if you so desire. You don't have to have a co-driver, but some do, just to enjoy their racing with their friend, or to reduce the cost, or indeed to let the preparer of the car have some time behind the wheel. But differing eras being represented.
It's very good to see the enthusiasm for this race, and we have to thank Patrick Peter for you know, promoting this series, because it's really a category which is growing every year, and you know, making fantastic events like the Tour de France and things like that, and very interesting for. Oh, that's the diesel Golf, which is a little bit smoking.
Yes, the diesels quite often did, and if you don't know it's a diesel Golf because it says TDI on the side, you certainly do from the black smoke. Olivier Murens in that VW that finished 4th outright in the event, that sort of illustrated how touring car racing was struggling. If a diesel Golf could be 4th, it was not quite the most competitive of eras, but here a more competitive fight with the BMW M3s, the one in the background in the Tic Tac Mints colours that Alan Berg, the Canadian ex-Grand Prix driver, ran in the DTM, German Touring Car Championship. And just up the road ahead of that car is Sam Adrians with a car that, looking at the livery, is another key Belgian coloured car. That's Matt Holmes' car going through. The Didier de Radiguez, Eric Ellery, Marc Douay, 1997 winning car. Marc Douay, another Belgian hero that's here this weekend.
Exactly, and he will drive a safety car here
okay.
during the 24s.
Now, that is Paddy Shovelin, who's had a moment and has made that previously immaculate BMW M3 look rather less immaculate. Now, Michael Cullen would never have done that.
He will have to make a pit stop, or he will be black flagged, because he can lose that big bumper, which would not be very nice for all the following cars.
I wonder what he's done to dislodge that. Does he run over a curb?
Yeah,
Ooh.
could be a curb or slight contact, but yeah, it may be just a curb. You know, track limits is always a bit issue those days.
Yes. Yeah. That car is an original M3, but not an original race car, if you see what I mean. So it's been recently taken from a road car to a race car and put in the Watson's colours that sponsor, still do sponsor, cars at Macau, and another one with damage, Pierre.
Yes. It could be just the clip, which wasn't properly secure.
The Cologne Capri of Wim Kyle then, with the flapping bonnet. The peril now is that if the air gets under it and lifts it, it could create more damage.
Yeah, that is likely to happen shortly.
So you asked about a lap time. That BMW in the hands of race leader Sebastian Glaser did a 2 minutes 35 on the first flying lap.
Okay. Because I just looked the pole position of our Sierra Cosworth in '88, which was my last 24 hours race, and we did the pole in 2.33.5.
Okay.
But okay, the track was a little bit different, because we had that bus stop chicane, which has changed and replaced by the Piff Paff turn 18 and 19 at the end of the lap. So
now the lapper is about to start, because there you can see the Alpha of Christine Beckers, the 80-year-old lady, being caught by the leaders. There's a snapshot in time. The 635 side-by-side look, because a big dive up on the inside of Jean-Loup Rion puts 35 through. That is Nicolas Traber. Goes through on the inside, and then Jean-Loup Rion tries to fight back, so the Eggenberger car does retake the place, and then Kurt Tim in the background in the Volvo. He didn't race one of those Imperial, as far as I can remember, but he raced against them. He won the DTM in a Rover, did Kurt Tim, back in 1986 against Volvos. But this is a proper Group A battle, isn't it? The 635s and the Volvo 240 Turbo in the background there. And
they're doing it seriously.
Yes, absolutely. So number 35 then, Nicolas Traber, back ahead of the ex-Helmut Kelleners, Umberto Grano Sierra. It was that car in '84 that was the last BMW that Rudi Eggenberger had before he had a year with Volvo, and then the Ford Sierra XR4 TIs that gave way to the Sierra Cosworth. Pantelis Christoforou with 327 Escort. Really nicely presented car, that, and very simple but very effective in its class, the Mark I Escort.
Yes, my first Spa 24 was in '71. I was in one of those Escort. Then I also drove at the European Touring Car Championship race at Ricard, which was one of the most fantastic. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
You had Stewart and Peterson. You had Jackie Hicks, Chris Amon, Loda, all the Formula One drive. They were doing this race. Good memories. And those Escort. And you have also Mark Lemmer.
Yes.
With an Escort.
That's right.
A broad speed car, a proper Escort. And as you know, is the boss and team principal of Barwell Racing.
Right. That's one of your rivals in the 24 hours. You've just seen the Wim Kyle Capri out of action. I think the air did get under the bonnet, and it's not only ripped it open, it's deformed it so it won't close back again. There is the Mark Lemmer Escort just going through shots. Simon Graves is behind the wheel at the moment. He starts there, 152. That's the Sam Adrian's ex-Eric van der Poel BMW. Simon Graves' Escort goes through. Simon and Mark Lemmer have shared cars for a number of seasons, go very effectively. And sprinting now down towards the chicane. Now, Paddy Chauvelin's not for pitting, but he's going to have to sooner or later because he's virtually driving over the front of that splitter. He must be aware now things are not right. There's stuff coming out of the front.
Would be sad if he loses it, because then the race will be neutralized by full course yellow or safety car. So that would be, he should rather stop.
And the team looking at this thinking, no, all the hard work we've done, we've made this immaculate car, and now look what you're doing to it. We're going to have to rebuild that panel at the very least. The danger is that when it parts company, it takes any pipes or hoses with it.
Yeah, and it seems that the radiator is also a little bit damaged behind, so.
Now they've got the Escort attacking Volvo as the race turns into La Source. 227 on the inside is Kerry Michael, another experienced Ford Escort racer. And the mechanical warning flag, the meatball flag, is being shown to Paddy Chauvelin to bring that car into the pit lane as Eric Sesho goes through with that very, very smart green and silver Escort Mark 1. So many of those dominated race circuits in the time because they were simple for the teams to use, and that...
And here it is, unfortunately.
Oh dear.
And the bonnet open, so you can hardly see the road. Very uncomfortable when this happened to you in a race.
Wim Kyle trying to get to the pit lane. Now, taking the ball out. Mind the barriers, Wim.
As long as it doesn't take the wall.
I like the fact that he's made his crash helmet the same livery as the car, the very Ford worked colours. The 635 battle has been interrupted a little bit by the pesky Escort. They're dropping back Jean-Louis Rion and Kurt Tim there in the Volvo coming towards us as well. But they're the 635 in the hands of Nicholas Traber going nicely. 327 Ford Escort Pantelis Christoforou. Interesting, isn't it, the way that the well-driven small engine cars can still take the fight to the more powerful cars. So up front, the BMW CSL leading the way. Now this is the Broadspeed liveried Escort, Simon Graves, Mark Lemmer's car. And Mark told me that Simon was going to start it, but behind in 178, the Tic Tac Mints BMW, Mark Verhaag. Trying to peer into the car and see whether it's a proper Barwell set of overalls that are hustling along in that. Mark Lemmer and Simon Graves sharing the Escort. But we were told it was going to be Simon Graves to start. Yeah, I would go along with that. You've been sent something. So they're going through. Simon Graves coming up towards the bus stop chicane, or the chicane as it is these days, really. The bus stop element no longer used because the whole shape is distorted. That is Simon Graves, wheel lifting, very late on the brakes there, Pierre.
Yes, he is on it. Unfortunately, the track returned to full green. The marshal managed to clear the debris without having to get an intervention, a full course yellow, or neutralizing the race, so that's good.
Now the pit window is open, so if you wish, you can put your co-driver in, or you can come in and have a breather. Some very famous liveries here, Marlboro BMWs, and then the Luigi team BMW CSL, Eric Mestak's car, number 75. But the Luigi team was another great part of European touring car racing.
Yes, and in fact, they properly launched my career because they took me as it was a family setup with Luigi and his brother-in-law Jean Osval doing the driving, and they give me the opportunity to drive together, and that we won the European Touring Car Championship together in '76, and that was a real launch for my career. I'm very grateful to them, and Jean Osval is here also. And
did you not also drive with Luigi's team at Le Mans?
Yes. Yeah. Funny story. In fact, We were coming back from Brno, which was in Czechoslovakia, at the time Czechoslovakia, behind the Iron Curtain. And it was part of the European Touring Car Championship, and Luigi has taken an entry at Le Mans, saying if the car is in good shape after the Mans, we stop on the way back and do Le Mans.
Stop on the way back.
How you could do it at the time. And we did exactly that. I think we finished second at Brno, stopped at Le Mans. We were late for scrutineering, but the ACO was very nice. They let us. The car was the slowest because we were not reaching 300 km/h at the time when everybody was doing, but we qualified and then put tires and fuel in during the race, no problem, and we finished P8 overall and won the IMSA class.
Fantastic. I love the idea of just stopping off at Le Mans. You know, like
yeah.
a tourist might go to the zoo, but you went to Le Mans.
But it was exactly that.
Yeah, amazing.
When you see how the world has changed and how racing has changed. Yeah.
Now, this is another good little battle going on. The Alfa Romeo GT-V6, that's the car that's being driven by Guy Favre from the mid-80s, or early to mid-1980s of the European Touring Car Championship, and the Ford Capri from a slightly earlier time. Really, the Alfa was from Group A, the Ford Capri from Group 1. And the Ford in question is a replica of the Teddy Pillett Gordon Spice winning entry. Kurt Tim going nicely in the Volvo. You heard Pierre talk earlier on about the fact that the car was dubbed the Stockholm Taxi because of the shape, but Rudi Eggenberger particularly made those Volvos into very quick race cars.
Yes, also with the help of the Volvo engineers, because their department developed the engine. We had a lot of problem in the first year, but they were solved. And then Rudi, which was also an engine expert, he brought all his experience and talent to make it a winner. And the car won the European Touring Car Championship in '85, and then Eggenberger was pinched by Ford, who was preparing the Sierra Cosworth for '87. So we did 1 year with the Mercure, which was the American version of the Sierra, and then the big adventure with the Sierra Cosworth and the Texaco cars in '87, '88, World Touring Car Championship, and then European Touring Car Championship.
There were so many of those Sierra RS 500s around the world. It was the car to have, and yet that Texaco livery is perhaps one that the fans identify with most. There was just something that made it stand out.
Yes, exactly. And also they were the first, as the factory cars. But also talking about Australia and Bathurst earlier, then they were very strong. Also with the Dick Johnson team in Australia and all over the world. In the UK also, there were a lot of Sierra. And Andy Rouse built the car. So.
But when Dick Johnson came to Silverstone for the Tourist Trophy, he put the car on pole position, and everyone thought, oh, those Australian Sierras, they're fast cars.
No.
Now,
but of course, there was rivalry between all those teams.
Yeah. That's still the race-leading car, and Sebastian Glazer at the wheel of the BMW. There's the Ford Capri in the Gordon Spice Racing colours. It's not the original car, but the recreation of the Gordon Spice Teddy Pillett, 1978 winning Ford Capri.
So that was the last win on the old circuit. That was the last year on the old the 14 kilometer circuit, and the Capri won first time there.
That must have been a very daunting circuit.
Yes, it was. Well, honestly, it was terrifying. The rate of nasty accident is a testimony of that.
Sure.
And yeah.
Problem for Philippe Truffier, just quickly to mention, the BMW from the Group A era has stopped on the approach to Blanchiment.
Yeah. So building the shorter circuit was an absolute need. Also, Formula One had stopped coming here since 71 or 70. The last Grand Prix was Belgian Grand Prix. It was 70. Oh, we see a replay.
That's the BMW when it was healthy, but look at the liquid coming out of the back. So problem there. And that's ahead of the Luigi team CSL of Eric Mestag. So the full course yellow is now being called for. So we've had a safety car start, and now full course yellow, and that I suspect is to remove the BMW from the outside of Blanchiment. The BMW you're looking at, Michael Kammermann, has not yet got into it. He hasn't made a pit stop. It is still being driven by Sebastian Glazer as the start driver. And there is Malcolm Swettenham with the pit board. the team manager of the Shovelin Jordan M3, or what's left of it. Malcolm also team manager in the British Touring Car Championship these days for Napa Racing UK's team, or part of the team, because you've got 4 cars, so he looks after 2 of them. Principally Dan Rowbottom's car and Ash Sutton's. That's Andrew Jordan, the 2013 British Touring Car Champion, now one of the leading lights in historic racing, incredibly versatile. You'll see Andrew in the GT race coming up next in a Corvette, and straps himself in. Now here's another example of how touring car racing's changed. Dominic Holvert's Toyota Celica, and behind the Dodge Charger of Christoph Schwarz. That is an enormous car, the American Dodge.
Yeah. Dominic Holvert, you know, it's interesting because it's a famous racing family in Belgium. I don't know if it was his father or his uncle, probably Emil Holvert.
Okay.
In the 60s was racing DKW. Do you remember the?
Yeah.
The
wow.
two-stroke engine.
You raced one of those?
No, I didn't race one of those. But Emil Holvert, yes, was very famous to race DKW, also in the first edition of the touring car 24 Hours of Francorchamps. And well, DKW became Audi, or was part of Audi. So it's funny, those makes that were around at that time and who have disappeared or have been engulfed into groups.
Sure. Now that is Sam Hancock getting, I think, into Jean-Louis Rion's car, not Nick Padmore, who was on the entry list.
Sam Hancock is here also because, you know, there are a few proper drivers.
Well, he was in the Maserati MC12 yesterday, the GT race. But
yeah, I know him quite well.
Yeah, very, very fast driver, Sam Hancock.
That's the thing about historic racing, you know. It's
oh no, it is Nick Padmore. Sorry to interrupt you. It looks like Sam Hancock's overalls. It is Nick Padmore after all. Forgive me on both counts. Sorry, Pierre, you were saying. No problem. It's that historic racing is getting more and more serious also with really top drives, and for me, it spoiled a little bit the spirit of historic racing when you do it too seriously. Marc Lemaire, yes? Yep. Good to go. So if anybody gets the pit stop wrong for the team owner, they're in real trouble, but out he goes. So the race goes back to green, and there's a bit of confusion there with some cars coming in and some going out. Yes, Nick Padmore's overalls, and where he's got his BRDC badge, exactly as Sam Hancock has, so forgive me for the confusion. But there in the pit lane, we've got a BMW that's in the fast lane and in the way. Here's the Volkswagen Golf that Jean-Francois Enroule, Raymond Bamschlager and Jörg Seidel took to 4th in the 24 Hours back in 1997, three-wheeling its way through. The Toyota has a driver change. Now that's interesting because we didn't know of a second driver for that car. So that plot thickens.
I suppose it's a set time to change driver?
Yes, I think it's 2 minutes for the pit stop.
But still, it's good when you can do it on the full course yellow, which many did. Now it's a green track again, a little bit of drama out there.
Yeah, the BMW needing to be worked on in the fast lane, which is far from ideal. The Eric Vick BMW rejoins.
Yeah.
And the Ford Capri making its pit stop, Alain Jadot's car. Right, the BMW now is out of harm's way. That's Philips Gemama's CSL. In comes the Porsche.
That's bad news for those guys doing under green when just before it was full course yellow.
So that also in is the leading car. So it was Sebastian Glaser who started. There he is. And Michael Kammerman now takes over the race with just 17 more minutes to go.
And how much gap did he have?
About 34 seconds. So I think they're going to be okay to preserve that to the very end. So the BMW understated in the colour scheme, but beautifully presented. The level of preparation and presentation of these cars, very, very good indeed.
Yes, and that's also Patrick Peter, who is very insisting on that, having original cars, or I mean fully certified car and beautifully prepared.
Oh, yeah, sure. Of course, when you were racing in the 24 Hours, there was not this pit lane, it was only the endurance pit.
Yes, only the endurance pit lane, yes.
difficult for the teams with the hill, the slope?
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult, but the same for everybody. And but also in those times with a lot less people. Now the BMW that we are running here for 3 cars, we have 66 people.
Wow.
Just on the operational side. I mean, engineer, tire man, management. So at that time you were racing with 3 people.
Yeah, yeah, much more simple times.
Yep.
Driver change here as out of the Alfa Romeo is Christine Beckers. Yeah, Petra Carlier will get into the car.
Yeah.
And that was a long stint, but bravo, Christine Beckers. I think she's enjoyed herself.
Yeah, very brave girl also, who did well at Le Mans.
Yeah,
with the Inaltera and the Rondo at the time in the 70s.
Inaltera was a wallpaper company?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So really relaxed pit stop. Look at this, no team clothing, no branding, nothing corporate, just enjoying your motor racing.
And this, because of course, she was one, that's his brother, Lucien. She is one of the first proper, racing lady.
Yeah, yeah.
You had in the past Maria Teresa de Filippi, but in those days you had Christine Beckers, you had Leila Lombardi, who was Divina Gallica in the UK.
Yeah.
And
Desiree Wilson.
Yeah. And these girls, they fought their way among men. And I have a lot of, we have a lot of respect for them, because now it has become more, a push to make sure that we get ladies in the sport. But they paved the way for that in a very brave way.
And Michel Mouton, who was, of course, famous as a rally driver, also had an outing at Le Mans. We've gone back to full course yellow, so there's been another issue somewhere around the circuit. All of this does count within the time of the race, of course. So the field slows right down again. I'm still slightly confused as to who the second never-announced driver in the Toyota is, but anyway, that car carries on. And Christine Beckers has really enjoyed her time on track, hasn't she?
Yes, but also she's over 80 years old, so it's very brave to go racing.
Oh, for sure. It's done a great job. And it's great to see that Alfa Romeo on track, because it's such a pretty car, as also is the GTV6. I think that was just coming out of La Source. Now, this full course yellow's necessity has not yet been explained, but we'll no doubt spot the car somewhere. So Michael Kammerman leading from Eric Kvick. That's the lead car. So the BMW CSL making its way up towards the timing line. And we've gone back green, so we're back in business. Andrew Jordan there in what's left of Paddy Chauvelin's BMW M3. The amount of stick Paddy is going to get off Michael Cullen, who's watching this at home, is going to be unbearable. And Malcolm Swetnam, who's, as I mentioned a while ago, team manager of this operation, ain't going to let Paddy Chauvelin live this down either. So Paddy will have quite a lot of stick, I fear, for this. That car is now second, and then behind Andrew Jordan is a car that Andrew Jordan's company, or him and his dad Mike's company, prepares. Matt Holmes there, more recent BMW, but that from a very different time and a different regulation set. Here in super slow-mo is Andrew Jordan at work. You can see all the exposed front of the car there as he comes through the chicane. The BMW M3, Pierre, was another great touring car. It was just simple to use, and again, so many of them had success around the globe.
Yes, it was thought by the great Paul Roche at BMW, and that car that was really thought as a race car. So it was very light, fantastic road holding, good braking, and that was the car challenging our big Sierra Cosworth, which were much more powerful, but using more petrol. And but in the end, Ford won the World Touring Car Championship in '87, but most of the winning and the winning driver. Oops.
Big spin. That's Matt Holm out of third place up at Bruxelles. He's lost it. Rejoins, so chasing Andrew Jordan, and the car having a spin. Matt Holm rejoins. The Sierra Cosworth was a bit late, wasn't it, for the opening round of the World Touring Car Championship in '87. So it was all the BMWs dominated, like the top 7 places, and then were disqualified because of the material of the roof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Sierra Cosworth was a problem with the management system. I don't know, can't remember, but the BMW who won the race, or took good placing were thrown out because of the thickness of the roof. They used special steel or whatever.
So again, I think it was a Holden that won, wasn't it? It was the Australian Holden Commodore that was then promoted to the points. So there's something about that season that seemed to look after the Australians.
Yes, exactly. But it was good to have them around there.
So it's a shame we don't
Alan Grice.
That's right.
Which was also a great character.
Yeah, I think Alan Grice came over the year before, didn't he, with Graham Bailey in the Chickadee Commodore in '86.
Yeah.
And in 1986, with him and the Peter Brock Mobile cars, they won the Coupe de Roi, the Holden team.
Yes.
Won the King's Cup. It's a shame we don't have a Holden on the grid.
That gave it really a world dimension to touring car racing. That was very good. Yep.
That's the replay of the spin. No damage, but around it goes. So just 10 more minutes of our trip down memory lane to go. There is some good racing going on. I know we're enjoying ourselves reminiscing, forgive us, but there's some good fights going on. Now the Volkswagen Golf is still pressing on. Also there in the background, Nick Padmore, who's taken over from Jean-Louis Rion in one of the most charismatic BMWs, the CSI rather, 635 CSI. And Nick Padmore, who is a very, very proficient driver, not just in historic machinery, but pretty much anything you put him in, he is quick. Many, many years ago, because his dad used to race minis, Nick started racing in those on occasions as well, but put him in historic touring cars or Grand Prix cars or sports cars, and he absolutely flies. Headlights ablaze as he tries to get through the traffic. Kerry Michael's escort not making life easy for him. Nick Padmore making it look very Spa 24 Hours with the lights on briefly there. Needs to try to find a gap on the inside coming up towards the chicane. This is the fight for 9th and 10th places and 11th, because behind them, Eric Mestag in that older BMW CSL. But Nick Padmore comes now out of the chicane, and this surely is where the power of the BMW ought to carry it past the Ford Escort.
Yeah.
But that said, Kerry Michael, look on the inside, hangs onto the place. So some good racing here.
It is. You were talking about Mini, they are missing in here. It was so nice to have all those little Mini amongst the touring car. So that was a great era also in '65, when I remember I saw Jim Clark with the Cortina Lotus around Brands Hatch or other places.
Yeah.
And the big Ford Galaxy, fighting the big Ford Galaxy and little Mini in the middle with Paddy Upkirk, and that was fantastic time also.
People like John Rhodes as well, who had this amazing ability to just throw the car into a corner, all the tar smoke, all the understeer. Fantastic racing, yes. This from a sort of later period, but you're right, the Cortina, Jim Clark won the British Touring Car, or British Saloon Car Championship as it then was, and the Formula One World Championship in the same year. There, the Alfa Romeo, Petrocalier getting out of the way of the quicker cars on the lead lap. Sam Adrian's BMW in that lease plan colour scheme, carried by Eric van der Poel down into Bruxelles. So Nick Padmore there, number 6 BMW, the Eggenberger car, having gone by, now starting to catch up to the traffic ahead. His next target is going to be the Golf, isn't it, of Olivier Meurens?
Yeah. I think he was a little bit balked by the slower car and not so happy, if you saw the gesture.
And oh dear, Kurt Tim's Volvo is into the pit lane. Volvos were quick, but they did have their reliability dramas in Group A.
Yes. The turbo car was sometimes a problem. Yeah, now the bonnet on the Golf.
Yeah, that
seems to be a quite frequent disease. Bonnet getting open.
It is, isn't it? We've had it with the Capri, now we've got it with the Volkswagen Golf. At least it's on the opposite side from the driver. But again, the problem is, faster you go, more air, and eventually that lifts up. That's Sam Adrians. He's going solo in this race. That's another very, very smartly presented BMW, isn't it? Eric van der Poel colours. So the M3 comes towards us, that car from 1988 in that following year. The World Touring Car Championship as an endurance category lasted just 1 year in 1987, and then the European Championship that had carried on at a low level then sort of picked up the mantle again in 1988, and entries were attracted back. Part of the downside of the World Touring Car Championship was the very high entry fee that FISA, as it then was, levied on all the team entrants.
Yeah, there was a lot of politics, you know. Bernie Ecclestone was involved in the launch of the championship ahead of '87, and then all of a sudden, I don't know why they made a U-turn, and as soon as that championship started, they decided to to kill it, to cancel it, and cancel European Touring Car Championship as well, because it went back to only Europe in '88, and then after it was finished, it was just national championship. For me, a great shame. I don't know why they decide to do that, but it is what it is.
Indeed. And of course now, different rule sets for different countries, TCR regulations for some. The British Touring Car Championship has its own technical regulation, but this gives us a chance to have a look at how it used to be as the cars make that climb up through Radiant once more. So the race now just 5 3/4 minutes to go. And so the race leading BMW looking as though it's on target for the win, doesn't it? Michael Kammerman is clear. The BMW battle, Nick Padmore and Sam Adrian's continuing. The 635 CSI just ahead of the M3, illustrating, doesn't it? As we go through the decades here, there's always been a BMW representation within this era of touring car racing.
Exactly, no, because it's a manufacturer. You know, touring car is their route, and they were always involved in touring car racing through the years.
And so now WRT linked for BMW within the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, which will be coming up later on today. Now, that prompts me to ask, Pierre, whether you can stay for the last 5 minutes or whether you need to go back to the team, because you've got an important race coming up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't want my drivers to wait for their briefing.
Right,
we are very strict on the respect of the timetable, so I cannot afford to be late.
That is understandable.
To give them the briefing.
Well, Pierre,
thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
No, thank you
very
so much,
everybody.
Pierre Dudon, 1981 winner of the Spa 24 Hours, and we'll keep tabs on the BMWs, of course, from WRT during the course of the 24 Hours. Thank you, Pierre, and good luck to the team for this afternoon. We've got just now 4.5 minutes of the race to go. Because of 1 or 2 little dramas earlier on, the timetable has slipped a little, so apologies that Pierre has to escape. But right now, Nick Padmore coming up to have a go at Olivier Murin's Golf. He's going to go bravely around the outside line, and he will go through. And I think Sam Adrian's in the M3 will follow suit as well. He does so. He goes right around the outside, curb and all, but job done. So inevitably, the faster cars move ahead of the Golf TDI. Put a place on that. And up front, we've still got Michael Kammerman in the lead, but Andrew Jordan now is starting to lap fractionally faster. Now, it's a totally different engine size, totally different BMW, but AJ's doing what he can with the JRT car of Matt Holm in 3rd place. I'm still ever so fearful about the bonnet on that Golf, but he's still going. These Olivier Murin's down towards us. Awesome, fights back, gets up the inside there of Sam Adrian's BMW and goes by. Job done, nice pass. Puts himself up past the ex-Eric van der Poel BMW M3. The distinctive bark of the M3, the distinctive wail of the 635 further up the road. The Golf TDI, in contrast, doesn't quite get the pulse racing with its sound, even if it was a car for a good result, 4th overall in that 1997 event. But there you can see the air getting under the front of the Golf's bonnet, trying to lift it from the car. We've got a couple of penalties now flying. One is to 47. That is to Guy Mestro now for disrespecting the full course yellow procedure. And also Sam Adrian's BMW here is being given a time penalty for not respecting the full course yellow procedure as well. So that's going to be addressed post-race. So Nick Padmore fending off the attentions of the Golf, but Sam Adrian's not able to get back ahead of it. So it's a well-driven car, that. The Golf TDI, of course, there was this push of the time to try and show alternative technology within the sport. You kind of focus on hybrid now, or electric, or the diesel spell at Le Mans, but even before that you had diesel Golfs here in the Spa 24 Hours. You had, remember, in the Vauxhall Vectra Challenge in the UK, an LPG-powered car, and then that technology came into the BTCC itself. So it's not a new thing, trying to find alternative fuels. Sam Adrian's back up the inside, and contact is made. You could argue that was a touring car move, but maybe given the value of some of these cars, it was a bit harsh. Classes off the Golf, but he's gone by. Sam Adrian's goes through. And let's have another look then, because there was a gap. The BMW went up the inside. I think probably was fully alongside. Olivier Meurens turned in and maybe wasn't quite expecting Sam Adrians to have committed to the corner. But the M3 has gone by. Now here's your leader, and it's still Sebastian Glazer's earlier fastest lap of the race that is perhaps carrying that car into the lead. But up front, it is a 14.9 second cushion that is separating Michael Kammerman from Andrew Jordan. There he is, in what Paddy Chauvelin has left him of the BMW M3. But don't worry, Paddy, no one will mention it at all. Michael Cullen's promised not to make a big deal of it. The Jordans won't mention it. I'm sure nobody will notice the damage you did early on. There's the leader. So Michael Kammerman pushing on. And despite the race being interrupted a couple of times, they've been able to consolidate that advantage and look very strong indeed up front. Matt Holm third in the BMW 320i, despite the spin. We'll see, looking at the clock, whether another lap can be squeezed out of this. 181, which is Olivier Meurens' Golf, is being given a 5-second penalty for causing a collision. So for turning across Sam Adrians, 17 seconds on the clock. And really, here, Michael Kammerman could just do with backing off, couldn't he? And making sure he gets to the line, because for the sake of a few seconds, another lap could be called for. 6 on the clock, 5, 4, 3, up towards the line. And he goes across the line. No, oh, yes, there was a flag. And so the checkered flag goes out, and it was just under the 45 minutes. It was a 44-minute, 59.040 second race. Michael Kammerman and Sebastian Glazer win from Andrew Jordan and Paddy Chauvelin. Andrew now has to get out of BMW mode and into Chevrolet mode, because he's going to be in the next race, starting Matt Holmes' Corvette. And this BMW battle between Nick Padmore and Sam Adrians continues. Sam Adrians masquerading as Eric van der Poel. Nick Padmore pretending to be either Helmut Kelleners or Umberto Grano. They were the force to be reckoned with in that Eggenberger BMW Italia fleet that year. Matt Holm there taking third place. Fourth coming up to the line will be Eric Kvick in the similarly liveried Bastos Fina BMW. There it is, the car that he has. Another Spa and Nürburgring 24-hour contender. Sixth place will be Simon Graves and Mark Lemmer. Sorry, fifth place, Simon Graves and Mark Lemmer in the Broadspeed Escort. There it is, but only just, because right on Lemsky's tail, Mark Verhaeghe's BMW M3, the Alan Berg car that goes through now, the former DTM livery car. And then after that, you've got the Porsche in the hands for the second stint of Serge Leibens. Through he goes, and Sam Adrians has got himself up past Nick Padmore on the last lap. So here they come, Sam Adrians versus Nick Padmore, down towards the chicane. It's been wonderful to see both of these cars with very evocative colour schemes, and it is going to be, perhaps appropriately, a Belgian liveried car, an ex-Eric van der Poel chassis that is going to take honours in that battle. Over and above the 635, there it is, of Jean-Louis Rion, who started it, Nick Padmore, who brings it home. So there, Andrew Jordan jogs down the pit road to get on board the Corvette for the next race, and a replay of that battle that we had between the BMWs. Sam Adrians being very, very brave indeed and going around the outside to take track position. More BMWs to the end. Eric Mestag's CSL chases Christian Traber across the line. So there are some penalties to apply. There are some question marks over one or two of the places, but we'll get a result as soon as we can. And a very happy group of drivers being enjoyed themselves on track in touring car mode. Paddy Chauvelin there with Matt Holm. And that's your winning car then, having done another lap, because the flag didn't quite come out in time for Michael Kammerman and Sebastian Glazer. Michael Kammerman bringing it home, but a job well done, that's for sure. So now into the endurance pits, that car will come. The next stream is going to be of the GT equivalent of that, because in about 10 minutes' time, the GT Endurance Legends race will be underway. And another chance to be nostalgic for GT cars once they make their way out on track. But there you can see the race-winning BMW. It is a fabulous-looking car, it really is. And the Ford Escort in the background. Escort Mark 1s having had huge success around the globe in the early 1970s. And then Ford started to focus attention on other cars from the brand, like the Capri, for example. So there is Michael Kammerman getting out of the car. And drivers will go to, as perhaps befits a heritage race, the old Podium. There you've got helmet off, Michael Kammerman. So a job well done, sharing that car with Sebastian Glaser, who did the initial stint in it. And that car winning in the end by 11.4 seconds for Andrew Jordan and Paddy Shavlin. So in a few moments they'll head to the podium, but before that we can find at least Michael Kammerman. Sebastian Glaser should be somewhere, but Michael Kammerman is down there. Sebastian Glaser, his co-driver, I think, is on the other side of the car, but Michael Kammerman is with Antonio Rankin to celebrate his race win.
Michael, congratulations. What a special race to win.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, actually it was not so very nice race because we had no, well, it's a nice race because we won, yes, of course, but the other Capri, they had a problem with the front bonnet, so we had nothing to fight with. Yeah, so for me, the second part of the race was a bit like driving on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah, car was fantastic, but I didn't push really hard in the second part of the race. My co-driver, Sebastian Glaser, took the start, and he made an amazing lap. I think he did 35.4. We never drove a time like this on this circuit here. The grip level is unbelievable high this weekend. It's a great car to drive, but if I don't have a car behind me, then I take care always about the car a bit to save the engine and all that. But this was a very nice event. It's a pleasure to be here, and yeah, it was good fun.
It seems like it. I mean, there was a lot of action in that race, a lot of things going left, right, and centre, really. How did you stay out of trouble?
No, if you have so fast car, yeah, and you don't have to take care about what is behind, then you can look for your line. It was a little bit shame for the start that the car had a problem here, that the race started under the safety car. The whole field was not so close together, but all in all, it was an easy race for us, as it was not. We made all the races there. We had to push much harder than this weekend, but anyway, we enjoyed the win, and it was a great weekend, and it was nice to be here.
Well, an easy win then. Thank you very much.
Loquacious Michael Kammerman celebrating his win, and Michael Kammerman and Sebastian Glaser, the winners from Paddy Shavlin and Andrew Jordan. Matt Holm third. Class winners all. Eric Kvick fourth, ahead of Mark Lemmer and Simon Graves fifth, and then in sixth place, Mark Verhaag, ahead of the Porsche that was shared by number 61, Serge Liebens, and Jean-André Collard. Behind them, you have Jean Louis on and Nick Padmore, Olivier Muren's next, and the top 10 completed by Pantelis Christoforou. We had a few non-starters, and we had a few non-finishers, sadly, as well, but a wonderful chance to see cars that have made a big impact in the history of the Spa 24 Hours. A look at the highlights of that race that began with the safety car start, so a slightly distorted beginning, but Sebastian Glaser making a very good getaway. He led as the rest of the field squabbled its way through La Source. Paddy Shavlin under attack from Christophe Van Riet's Ford Sierra, and you also had Eric Kvik's BMW working its way through on the inside line. And then Paddy Shovelin's BMW started to disassemble itself. Undaunted, he carried on, as did Wim Kyle, whose bonnet was up, and he found the trip back to the pit lane a little more arduous. There was a good battle between Simon Graves in the Broadspeed Ford Escort and the BMW M3 in the hands of Mark Verhaag, and the Escort was able to stay ahead of the rather younger BMW, as while chasing Andrew Jordan, Matt Home had a spin coming out of Bruxelles, but thankfully he was able to get it in the right direction and rejoin, as Nick Padmore then took up a big fight, partly with the Ford Escort in the hands of Kerry Michael, but also the BMW M3 behind, that car of Sam Adrians, and the Golf in the hands of Olivier Meurens. Meurens though got a penalty after contact with the M3 here, down at campus. So in the end, a win for Sebastian Glazer and Michael Kammerman. A wonderful, evocative reminisce down memory lane. The touring car element of the Spa 24 Hours from Pierre Dieudonné and David Addison. Goodbye from Spa for now.